Well, week one is in the books, and week two, woo, week one, what a whirlwind, guys! This is wow. Like we got a lot to unpack, so I say we jump right in. This week started off on Thursday night, as it typically does now, with an incredible opening game, in my opinion. The Dallas Cowboys visited the Philadelphia Eagles. As you guys are intimately aware, deep rivalry here. Lots to talk about. Tim, we traded our best player, according to the media, to the Green Bay Packers, and then yet still went to Philly. And in my opinion, I think we gave him a lot of stuff to deal with in the game. What was your take on the game?
Yeah, my take was, the Dallas played them well. Now, I hate that the Eagles fans will say, yeah, but we didn't have Jalen Carter because he's spitting Dak's face. And you could do that. You could do what if for every single game, right? What if you had this player? What if that player? But the bottom line is the Eagles put out a really good team and Dallas hung with them. Dallas was right there. I was very impressed by Dallas. I thought it was a great game. That's one of those weird moral victories. You didn't get the actual win, but you feel like you can hang with them. So if I'm a Dallas fan, I'm walking away pretty impressed.
Yeah, Caleb, you had this team, the Dallas Cowboys, upsetting Philly close, very close. The score was 24-20. Your take on the game, some takeaways from you?
I think it was very close. Obviously, you don't want to blame one play, but there was a Miles Sanders fumble on the goal line, Jake Ferguson drop in the end zone, and then CeeDee Lamb, those two deep balls that he dropped. So very winnable, pretty upsetting for Dallas fans, but encouraging as well. We hung with them. They are the best team in the league, according to everybody, Super Bowl champions. We bottled up A.J. Brown, bottled up Devonta Smith, forced Jalen Hurts to run. First half, it didn't work great because we didn't spy him and he just got free touchdowns. But obviously in the second half, that changed. So just encouraging because Dallas didn't have any edge rushers or any run game when the season started, and I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, Josh, this is the fifth year, all under Coach Nick Sirianni, that they've won their opener. They're 5-0 in openers with him. An interesting fact of Dallas, Josh, that I'll give you before you start giving me your commentary. I don't know when the last time they gave up no sacks. Dak did not get sacked one time in this game, which again, for a line that we kind of glued together, I think that's a good thing. Your take on the game?
Yeah, you look at this game, and obviously, as you brought up first, Micah Parsons not being there in that team. So Jalen Hurts this game had the longest amount of time in the NFL for a starter in the pocket to throw the football. And he also had the lowest average depth of target in the NFL as well. So you look at what they were doing defensively, containing with two high safeties against A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Obviously, Jalen Hurts was not really looking towards that direction, even though he could have, obviously. But obviously the defensive assignment there, and then Jalen Hurts just dink and dunk and design runs with no backs in the backfield. They just chipped away at this game, and they didn't really do anything crazy, obviously. I don't think you were blown away with the Eagles' performance. But Dallas, very, very much so a winnable game if they didn't have those mistakes, as the Eagles were just kind of just chipping away.
Yeah, Tim, something that stood out to me just listening to the aftermath is that people are still saying that Dak Prescott's on thin ice, and people are still praising Jalen Hurts for his performance. And I don't know, to me, it looked like a pretty balanced performance for both quarterbacks. However, I'll say Hurts looks like he would much rather run than actually be a thrower of the football, as Josh would say.
Yeah, you go back, watch all the throws, watch all the plays, and it looked like, he's much more comfortable running, much more comfortable, and that's got to be a little bit concerning, I think, for the Eagles fans, because you want your quarterback to feel comfortable throwing the ball. It doesn't matter what team you're on, right?
Yeah, Josh.
I think if you take away the one Jahan Dotson play, which was like 40, 50 yards, Jalen Hurts ended up throwing 90 to 100-ish yards in that game, excluding that play. So really, you can't credit him for what he did, but obviously he didn't turn over the football, and he didn't have any faults in this game, and he just took advantage of what was there.
Yeah, took what they gave him. Caleb, surprised to see that Dallas could run the football the way they did?
Yeah, especially we talked about the O-line being so young. I think 3 Tylers on the line, so not enough Tylers on the team, but I was surprised. Javonte is a thumper running back, and then the Broncos tried to switch him to a pass catcher. So it was interesting to see him be that kind of every down back for them, especially after Miles Sanders fumbled the ball and didn't see the field again. I don't think after that. And it's interesting, Jaden Blue, they drafted in the 3rd or 4th round, I can't remember, is still a healthy scratch. He's not going to play next week, they're talking about. So they're confident in Javonte, and in what we saw this week, we should be confident in him too.
Yeah, I agree. All right, anything before we move on to the next game? Anything stands out? Any consequences? Now, obviously, a moral victory, Tim, you said is great for Cowboy fans. I'll be honest, I didn't mind the loss. You know, I went into knowing that we're going to probably lose the opener. I was aware how strong Philly comes out of the gate. As a Cowboys fan, I'm good. I saw a lot of things. I thought Coach did a great job. He coached a great game. I like the adjustments they made. We talked about it. Eberflus would make adjustments at halftimes. He did. That kind of changed it. And at the end of the day, 24-20 is a close game. So I'll take it. All right. Let's talk about, again, some of the other matchups. As I said, Dallas loses to Philadelphia 20-24. Philadelphia wins. This one's another one. Another rivalry. 21-27. The Chiefs fall to Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Caleb, I see you grinning already. Take it away.
I mean, I think we kind of beat the drum for Justin Herbert this entire time we've ever had this show. We've always liked him. Through all of the bad coaching he's had, I think he's had 4 different head coaches, maybe 3. Yeah. But this is definitely the most stability he's had. With Greg Roman being their OC, we thought that they would be run heavy in this game, drafting a Marion first round or top of the second. Someone correct me. But getting Najee Harris, Najee Harris in free agency as well. Their O-line being so stout. However, that their left tackle is on IR. Is that who this is? Rashawn Slater?
Slater, yep, he's out for the year.
Yeah, he's out for the year. I think whoever filled in for him was great. They didn't need to run. It was surprising Justin Herbert threw the ball a lot. All of their receivers have said last week, don't start them unless their name's Ladd McConkey. But apparently Keenan Allen just plug and play where he was 2 years ago on this team. And Quentin Johnson looks like he took a leap from last year, which is very encouraging. So the offense as a whole is just, it looks scary in my opinion. They beat the Chiefs. Their defense is stout. I mean, overall, the Chargers surprised me, and I think that they're a lot better than we think that they are.
Josh, I want to ask you this because we've talked about it, outside of the studio here. But Patrick Mahomes scrambled 6 times for 57 yards and had a touchdown, generating a career high 4 explosive runs of 10-plus yards. However, he went head-on into players, and including the one we talked about live where he took out a cornerback. Instead of stepping out of bounds, you had some criticism of that. Tell our listeners why you don't think that's a great idea for Patrick.
Yeah, I think it was Dante Jackson. He was running on the right sideline, and he approached him and just trucked him, which it's okay. But if a defensive back did that to the quarterback, it would be a flag more than likely because Pat Mahomes was not trying to go out of bounds necessarily. He wasn't taking that effort to go horizontally and to get out of bounds. And it didn't look like Jackson was really trying to take him out as well. He kind of just assumed that he would, meet him face to face and step out of bounds. But instead he trucks him, Pat Mahomes that is. So I think there's a lot of questions with that. He did that several times in this game where he was just fighting for extra yards on the sideline. I think it's just something we need to get fixed up and more definitive on as far as the ruling for that stuff in the league.
Yeah, I have something to add to that. We've seen a lot of rule changes come because of what the Chiefs do or what someone has done to the Chiefs in the past. So I think, like Josh is saying, Pat Mahomes exposing this, kind of the corner letting up at the sideline as a way to get more yards. I think they're going to change that and start flagging quarterbacks or running backs, whoever it is, just like they took out the fake slide that people have used in the past. So I think we'll see a rule change if this continues to be exploited.
Yeah, Tim, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, well, I was just going to add on about Justin Herbert, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I know, Caleb, you had said, I know this might be an overreaction, but Caleb, your hot take was that Bo Nix had a shot at MVP. But I think if this continues, man, it's a different quarterback in that division, right?
Yeah.
318 yards for Herbert.
Touchdowns.
3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. And that's the key right there, 0 turnovers for any quarterback, right?
Well,
but he looked poised. Sometimes these guys get overhyped in a big game like this, especially first game against AFC champions against the rival team, and he just came out looking poised, cool, calm, and collected. He looked like Patrick Mahomes normally has that swagger and that calm presence on the field. So I loved everything about the Chargers, and I talked last week about a few gap games. Like, can some of these teams close the gap? Right. I know it's only 1 week, but if they keep that up, not only have they closed it, but they may have flipped the gap there. They definitely outplayed Kansas City, in my opinion.
right, so
Right.
Josh, you are the ever calm one here. I'm going to ask you the the Kansas City Chiefs. Should they panic or should they be patient?
Should they panic? Just to add one thing to what Tim was saying as far as Justin Herbert. He had no turnovers in this game. He had 3 turnovers, or 3 interceptions rather, last year. Obviously a low number, 7 the year prior, and then he has 1 season over 10. So he's 10, 15, 10, 7, 3, and as of now, 0. So obviously he does a great job not turning over the football there. But to be concerned about the Kansas City Chiefs, you mentioned the rushing total for this game from Pat Mahomes. I think they had under 100 yards in this game, and they haven't had real production from their running backs in the last 10 or so games ever since Pacheco was hurt last season. So they bring in Kareem Hunt to split in 50-50. He does all the short yardage stuff. He's not very explosive anymore. Wasn't really drafted as an explosive athlete either. So I think there should be concern there, and that's why you'll see other guys entering this backfield throughout the coming weeks. Someone like Brashard Smith, the rookie who played wide receiver in college and transitioned at the end of his career into a running back. You'll see people like Elijah Mitchell, who we know started for the San Francisco 49ers immediately out of the gate his rookie year and had 1,000 rushing yards. You'll see other names and faces in this backfield to have some sort of production there, because it's been poor for weeks and weeks and weeks throughout the last 2 seasons, and they really didn't have any presence there in the Super Bowl either. So there certainly should be concern. Obviously, Xavier Worthy taken out on the first drive of this game, a mesh route or a crossing route with Travis Kelce. There's concern there, but Hollywood Brown, 16 targets in this game. Rashee Rice, everyone's counting down the days. We've got 5 more weeks until he's
Getting
back.
more expensive.
Right. Hopefully they can string it together for the next month or so.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs should panic by any stretch. I think that they are who they are. We've known they've always had running back committee, and we've known they've had a revolving door with receivers. None of that kind of concerns me. I guess the most concerning part, as you guys brought out, is that the Chargers seem to be for real. And they were very comfortable in being in control of most of that game. So in that regard, I think their 27-21 victory is great for them. Great. We knew Harbaugh would be the factor. A couple games as we're moving down the list. The Raiders take care of business, defeating the New England Patriots 20-13. Another game I want to land on, guys. We talked about a lot in the preview. Pittsburgh Steelers found a way to defeat the New York Jets. 32 points from this Jets team. And Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. It sounds crazy. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers win 34-32. Who wants to take this one on?
Yeah.
Somebody go for it.
I'll go for it.
Take it.
I've been one of the, I don't want to say few, but few people I know, other than Tim, who have been on the Rodgers train the entire time. I love Aaron Rodgers. Never had a problem with him on the football field. But this game, he really looked like vintage Rodgers. 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think all 4 touchdowns were 4 different receivers. He's resurrected people's careers. Calvin Austin's now a viable fantasy option. Wide receiver 2. Looks great. DK Metcalf. I mean, this first touchdown on the team was for Ben Skoranek. He was the 5th man on the Rams, like a nobody receiver. Aaron Rodgers is just doing Aaron Rodgers things. But I don't want to think or talk about them as if the Jets didn't do good. The Jets completely turned around. They look like a different franchise right now. They look great. Justin Fields looks like who we thought he was, with some stability and some trust in him from his team, which is surprising, being that it's week 1. But I'm looking forward to both of these teams. But it was a great game. It was kind of back and forth. But, man, the Steelers look dangerous.
Yeah, Tim, your guy Aaron Rodgers tied Tom Brady for most career 28 games where he's had 4+ touchdown passes and no interceptions.
Yeah.
That's precision right there.
Unbelievable.
We were rooting for 5.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. He just looked cool, calm, comfortable. Yeah, he just looked good out there. But like Caleb said, the Jets looked they were good. I mean, if it wasn't for Chris Boswell, what was it, 60-yard field goal, I think.
Yeah.
We'd be sitting here talking about the Jets being for real. The one red flag I'd say for both teams, honestly, is stopping that the run defense. They both struggled to stop the run, both Pittsburgh and the Jets. But yeah, man, it's so good seeing vintage Aaron Rodgers back. Well, hopefully he stays healthy and he can carry that throughout the rest of the year. Because if he does, Pittsburgh could ruin a lot of teams along the way here, I think.
Yeah. Josh, I don't want to understate, as Tim said, what the New York Jets were able to accomplish. A team that has not historically hadn't had a good season in years. One notable player, of course, Sauce Gardner is one of their best players, allowed one reception for 11 yards on 3 targets while covering the Pittsburgh Steelers' top receiver on 90% of his routes. Impressive what he was able to do. Talk a little bit about the game from your perspective.
Yeah, obviously, you look at the slate from last week, and people weren't very excited about the Dolphins and the Colts game. They weren't very excited about the Steelers and the Jets game. And then it presented itself as, yes, the Dolphins and the Colts was the worst game, and then the Steelers and the Jets arguably was the most exciting game outside of the late night games. But you look at that game, the Jets were able to have 394 yards on offense, 182 yards on the ground. That's 4th in the league right now. The Jets couldn't get it going, really, on the ground last year, and so it's exciting to see them have a very explosive game there. Breece Hall, people had a lot of doubts about him going into the season just because of the uncertainty of this team, but obviously had his best game in the last 2 years. You look at the run chart for that game, everything for the Jets offense ran to the left, the opposite side of TJ Watt, and you obviously you respect a player like that, but I think it was interesting to see every single run on offense was to the opposite side of that guy. But obviously, great performance for them. They have 4 sacks in that game. They're very efficient on 3rd down. There wasn't really a big negative or alarming thing that you would have expected from this team. They look like a top-level team, and hopefully that can continue for them, and Justin Fields can continue to have success there. But obviously, all the uncertainty going into the year pointed and alluded to them not being a great team, but they answered that immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it was a good game to watch. I was surprised to see them go back and forth and continue to move as they did. All right, let's just get a bunch of games out of the way here. As you mentioned, surprise, Indianapolis wins 33-8 against the Dolphins. Not sure.
Can I make 1 point on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
1 point.
1 point. You got
okay.
1.
So there's one quarterback in the league that has scored on every possession of a game. It's not Dan Marino. It's not Brett Favre. It's not Tom Brady. It's not Joe Montana. It's not Peyton Manning. It's Indiana Jones. Daniel Jones is the only quarterback in NFL history to score on every possession of a game. So,
all right, I'm going to challenge you on that. I think there's a team in 1991 who scored on every one. But I'm going to leave it to you to find out if that's true or false.
91?
1991. I'm old, remember? I have some of this backdoor knowledge right here. And then tell me if I'm right or wrong, maybe later in the show or on the next show. But yeah, I think they're the first team since 1991 to score on every drive. And
you're probably right. Yeah, I think it was over 30 years.
I'm over 30 years, unlike you guys. So
I say it. Yeah.
Anyway, regardless, it's a Daniel Jones stat.
Thank you. Yeah. That's your point. Is it's a Daniel Jones
Retire
stat.
The number.
No, gosh, a little premature.
This is the funniest thing to come out of this offseason was Daniel Jones this is going to be terrible, right? The whole season, we're going to look back and be like, why did this happen? The coach is probably fired. There's probably a quarterback change there. But, of course, Daniel Jones comes out here and looks like the greatest quarterback to ever live week 1 for no reason at all.
Let me contrast that, too. Tua Tagovailoa didn't log a single completion under pressure and threw both of his interceptions on plays where he had no pressure. So it looks like the ghost of Daniel Jones slipped across the sideline there and jumped in our boy Tua somehow. Not good.
To Caleb's concern, Tyreek Hill, he said, how many games would it take for him to have an episode? The answer is half of a football game, week 1. It was a nightmare. I mean, you could say that the first interception was his fault. He jumped up and looked right into the sun like T.O. did and just went straight through his hands. Interception there. But obviously his off-field situation happening now. There's going to be trade rumors. Everyone knows. There was an answer. Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, the GM, they're in question immediately after week 1. So this is not going to be a great season for them. And it doesn't look like they're going to pick it up.
No.
Yeah.
No, this was and let's before everybody gets excited and starts sending us a bunch of messages. The Colts aren't this good. They're not 33 points every week good, y'all. So just
Come
stop.
on.
Just stop right
I think
now.
the Dolphins are just bad.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no doubt. Let me get through a couple scores here. Arizona Cardinals beat New Orleans Saints. I don't think anyone's surprised there. Washington Commanders was able to win at home against the New York Giants, 21-6. Again, no surprise. Jacksonville Jaguars at home, 26-10 over Carolina in a solid win. Let's stop here just for a second, not for much, but Joe Burrow was able to beat the Cleveland Browns by 1 point, 17-6. Everyone's shaking their head. Talk about it, Tim. What alarms you about this one?
I mean, come on, that should have been everybody's lock last week, right? I don't remember who our locks were, but I think we try to pick different ones on paper. Cincinnati, I think all of us would agree, is a 4 or 5 team in the AFC, or at least we thought. And the Browns are by far a bottom 2 or 3 team in the AFC. And so I think it was just a surprise. I mean, Burrow barely got Jamar Chase involved. I barely had any receptions. 17-16, squeezing out by 1 point. I mean, that's not a great start.
Yeah,
I know he tried to spin it as but no, that's not the start Cincinnati wanted at all.
No.
The Browns also gave them the game. It's not something like the Bengals held on to the game. There was 2 drops that turned into interceptions.
Yeah.
Their defense was stopping the Bengals for a large portion of the game, obviously. But you look at their offensive numbers. I think they had 7 yards in the second half. Joe Burrow finished with 113 yards. As far as this week goes, they're 31st in the league in passing yards, 31st in the league in rush yards. They literally were a bottom 2 team offensively, and they somehow squeaked out a win against this team that was just doing everything better than them other than catching the football.
Yeah, that Cincinnati recorded 141 total net yards on offense, the second lowest in a franchise win. I mean, how do you win essentially with 141? No, I agree. Caleb, anything before we move on?
Yeah, the big reason that Burrow was struggling was Myles Garrett. 24.9% of the snaps that Myles Garrett was on the field. I read that wrong. The pressure rate was 24.9%. So a quarter of his snaps, he was pressuring the quarterback. He had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. So on a whole quarter of the game, Myles Garrett is breathing down Joe Burrow's neck. So that could lead to a lot of mistakes, a lot of not doing anything. So I think that he's a big reason why that game was close.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's talk about. Go ahead.
Can I mention one thing?
Sure.
The Browns dink and dunked the whole game. They didn't really. They just slowly took care of business. They were 3rd in time possession in the NFL. They were 3rd in third down efficiency. And Joe Flacco is currently the 5th highest passer in the NFL right now. I mean, obviously it's 1 week, but there's nothing that points to the Bengals winning this game. They didn't have any sort of anything. No impressive plays on offense. A 30-yard receiver, a 20-yard receiver, a 40-yard running game, 7 yards in the second half. It's a win opposed to the previous seasons where they don't win in the opening week. But
yeah, the fact is
certainly ugly.
At one point in the game, the Browns had a 93.8 win probability. They lost that over 3 plays, just 3 in the fourth quarter. So crazy stuff. Let's continue. Baker took care of the Falcons 23-20 in a game that looked a little closer than it should have been, with some drudgery on the offense for the Falcons at the end. Go ahead, Caleb.
1 point. Tim and I talked about Hassan Reddick last week and how he'd be a factor in this game. Let me just read this real quick. He recorded a 22.6% pressure rate, which is 2nd highest among defenders with at least 30 pass rushes. He had 7 pressures and the only sack in the game on their side of the ball. So, hold on. Highlighted by 3 pressures that occurred in under 2 seconds. So he was on Penix in 2 seconds. So he was the factor in that game. It was a close game, came down to the wire, but Hassan Reddick, the old man getting it done. Just shout out to him. I think he's going to be the game changer for this team this year for the Buccaneers.
Tim, you wanted to add something to that?
No, I mean, I to be honest, I was a little concerned for the Bucks early on because Bijan was just running wild on him, and I thought, oh gosh, maybe we were wrong about the Bucks, but nope. Caleb's exactly right. Hassan Reddick did what he normally does and just made a huge impact. And you get a player like that, that's rare. You know, he just makes an impact on whatever team he's on. And if you're a Bucks fan, you got to be feeling good about having him on your team.
For sure. All right, 3 more scores, then we'll unpack 3 games. The Titans went to Denver, of course, another messy game, but Bo Nix and the Broncos were able to win 2012. San Francisco etched out a win against the Seahawks 17-13 in Seattle. And Houston looks to be in trouble, putting up 9 points against the Rams, who beat them 14-9. The big 3 games I want to talk about. We'll close out our recap and move into our preview. This was a big game, Tim. Micah Parsons allegedly was going to have an epidural to be on the field. Green Bay's favored to win. I'm trying to look at that line as we're talking about by 2.5. They were favored by 2.5 at home. They ended up winning 27-13 against the Lions, who, Tim, the Lions failed to score a touchdown against this team through 3 quarters, something they haven't done since 2023. Right. What's going on? What's going on with Detroit?
Well, even crazier is the Lions did not lose a game on the road last year. They went the whole year undefeated on the road, and so they come in first week, and like I told you, historically, well, short history, but the last 5 or 6 years, the Packers historically over these last 5 or 6 years have not opened up well. They've kind of gotten their butts kicked in week 1. And I was, as a Packers fan, I was a little worried about this game because the Lions are a good team. They got Hutchinson coming back, and Dan Campbell's still there. I know they lost their coordinators, but they were not the same Lions team. And again, it's just one game, so I know it's easy to overreact. I saw the odds today of them making the playoffs have dropped like by 40 or 50%, some insane number. The Lions are still a good team, I think. But the Packers put together a complete game, and Packers played well. And I do think having Micah Parsons just gave them that emotional boost out there. He got 1 sack on Goff. But Packers look good and Lions look bad, and that was the difference in the game. Honestly, it wasn't the Lions just did not bring their A game at all, and Packers, some of the receivers they weren't too sure about with Dobbs and Jaden Reed. We had talked about some of the injuries there. They looked solid. They had several grabs each and contributed. And if they can stay healthy, along with their first-round draft pick of Matthew Golden, and you add in Josh Jacobs in the backfield, the Packers could be very, very dangerous this year.
Yeah. Caleb, your thoughts?
Spoken like a true Packers fan.
No, that's good. That's a good take.
I think that the coordinators leaving the Lions definitely showed up in this game. I wouldn't panic yet, but I think there needs to be some adjustments made. You could tell in the offensive spacing, the running backs couldn't get anything going, which looked great for Packers linebackers. I think Edrin Cooper and Quay Walker both had 10 tackles or more. Yeah. So they looked great. The offense just looked a little stale to me. They couldn't get Jameson Williams going. They couldn't get Gibbs going. I know Gibbs, top 5 pick in fantasy, and he really put up a stinker for people that drafted him that high. So the offense just looks stale, looks off. Like Tim said, usually the Packers are the slow starters. I think it was that Hurricane game against the Saints. Maybe they got upset with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. So that one hurts for me. But the Lions, I wouldn't panic yet. They're a good team. Dan Campbell is a great coach. The culture there is going to be good. But I am a little worried how their offense is going to shape out this year.
Josh, your take? I think we lost your audio.
Josh, you're muted.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So the Lions, they ran the ball equally as bad as the Cincinnati Bengals. Chase Brown had the same amount of yards as the 2 running backs for the Lions, which was a big part of their offense last year. David Montgomery getting 12 touchdowns, Jahmyr Gibbs leading backs in a lot of numbers. But they had 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. They were somehow 4th in time of possession with no run game. I don't understand that. And 200 passing yards. So I really don't know where that came from. But obviously they weren't able to do anything in this game. 13 points scored, 27 points allowed. There wasn't really a bright spot for the Lions in this game. And so like Caleb said, the concern and question goes to the coordinators that were lost. Obviously Ben Johnson with the Bears, Aaron Glenn with the Jets. We saw success for the Jets. We saw at least points scored for the Bears, but we'll talk about that game
next.
But it'd be interesting
Yeah.
because we saw with Dan Quinn in his first year without Ben Johnson, I believe, or at least his first year coaching, they had a poor season. And this team looks closer to that than the previous season, of course, but it's not a fair comparison because last year's Detroit Lions were a top 5 offense all time by the numbers. So we'll see what's to come. But obviously, Jared Goff, not in a dome, not in his comfort zone, has been a problem for him in previous years as well. So we'll see once they get back home or get back inside at another stadium.
Tim, here's some random stuff that I stumbled across. My mind thinks different than everybody else. Okay? 11 different Packer receivers ran routes in this game. Of those 11 different ones, do you know how many of them caught a pass from Jordan Love?
All 11?
10 out of 11. He threw the ball to 10 different people. That is insane, the depth of this team.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's nuts. All right, let's talk about I want to go a little out of order. Let's stay in the North because this game was meaningful because it'll come back at the end of the year for sure. Chicago at home. Again, checking to see if Chicago is not favored at home. Man, Vegas was pretty close for a first week. Vikings win 27-24. This was another game. We're gonna close with the Bills game and the Ravens game. But this was the tale of two cities again. This was a very, very unique game. Caleb, you're shaking your head. What are your initial thoughts on this game?
Man, I don't know where to start.
I know.
The Bears came out looking sharp. Caleb Williams on script looks amazing. Off script is still in question a little bit, as we all know. Last year, he was sacked, I think, 68 times, most ever. So it's not really fair for him. This is a brand new system to him. So he's basically a rookie in the system. New Bill O-line, weapons, Swift looked great. The Vikings, I feel like their defense turned on in the second half. I don't think they allowed a yard in the third quarter. Correct me if I'm wrong. J.J. McCarthy looked terrible.
-1 or something like that.
Yeah. J.J. McCarthy looked terrible. Like, they were treating him on the internet like he was committing crimes. Like, terrible. Came out in the second half, game managed, hit 143 yards, I believe, at a rushing touchdown. Hit his reads, which is what you're supposed to do in the NFL. Aaron Jones beat 2 linebackers in the end zone. Perfect. 2-point conversion to Adam Thielen because Aaron Jones chipped him. I love Aaron Jones. Yeah, I know the internet and people want to hype up McCarthy, but I think this is 100% Kevin O'Connell coaching great. Defense was amazing. Brian Flores coached a great game. It was just coaching because the second half, the Vikings were a completely different team. Yeah, so I would just say my takeaway is I am not at all changing my opinion on J.J. McCarthy. I think that he's not the guy for this team. I think Kevin wrong podcast. Kevin O'Connell is a great coach, and he deserves all the credit, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I can say J.J. McCarthy became the first quarterback in NFL history to account for 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter in his NFL debut. Which we're stretching. Okay, I'm stretching, but I mean, let's give the kid a little props. Yeah,
143 yards.
Yeah, Josh, take it home. Would you have some thoughts before we land with Tim?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, J.J. McCarthy, 143 yards, I believe, through the air. He obviously had some rushing numbers as well and a rushing touchdown. I think he had 40-ish yards in the first half, so 100 in the second half, roughly. But their first half offense was painfully conservative. It was just nothing was happening. I mean, even to end the half, you had, I think, 11 seconds or so to hit a sideline pass or to get more yardage for this field goal. But instead, they bring out Will Reichard for essentially a 60-yard field goal, not trusting J.J. McCarthy to get that yardage, trusting him not to get sacked, essentially. So at the first half, you definitely saw where they were not giving him the full trust, and I don't blame them. But there was just absolutely nothing happening for them through the air, on the ground at all. And then, like Caleb said, defense really stepped up. They started opening up the offense a little more for McCarthy. They were, to the credit of the Bears at least, playing against a ton of backups in week 1, which was not expected until this week, of course. Jalen Johnson, who's kind of missed a lot of the offseason, he was out. Kyler Gordon, their top 2 corners, were out. Nashawn Wright, who was filling in at cornerback, essentially their 4th or 5th corner, he had hamstring problems the entire game, or calf problems, one of the two, where he kept coming in and out, pulling them. They had Noah Sewell filling in at linebacker for TJ Edwards, and he was the one that missed that assignment on that Aaron Jones touchdown.
Right.
So there's a lot of problems defensively, but it obviously was not their defense rather. So a lot of questions there for them stepping into the season as they get those guys back. Is it going to be as big of a struggle as it was? Because obviously if you can't stop J.J. McCarthy, then you can't stop anybody. So
yeah. Part of what slowed the Bears down too, Tim, is they racked up 12 penalties for 127-yard pre-snap penalties are the worst, and we know Ben Johnson is going to be pulling his hair out over that. What's your takeaway? This is a big division of, your division. Packers live here. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was going to bring up about the penalties. That's so ugly. You can't be penalized 127 yards. That's absolutely terrible. And to me, this one kind of contrasts. I said the Eagles, Cowboys, and the Jets, Pittsburgh. No matter who won the game, I think the fans of those teams could walk away feeling good. I think this is the opposite, actually. I don't know that the Vikings fans are gloating today.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the Bears fans, they should have won that game, and Caleb Williams just didn't look that good. Like I think it was Caleb said, off script. I mean, he did fine. You can only script so many plays, right? You can practice your first 10 plays all week long, but then you need to be able to play quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if either of those teams, there's a lot of red flags for both those teams, to be honest with you. I think it starts at the quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
I think for your division, at least, the Packers got to be feeling very nice. Because last year they weren't entirely considered compared to what the Vikings did, of course, with their 14 wins and what the Lions were doing just as the top offense in the league.
Yeah.
But now they take down the Lions. The Lions basically do nothing. And then you watch this game at night where there's essentially nothing in the first half outside of that Bears first drive. And then the second half is just Caleb Williams crumbling and J.J. McCarthy slowly killing the Bears. So if you're a Packers fan, then you're very excited.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think Josh, you said it best. Like, I'm not sure now. I'm again not panicking. We're definitely not needing to panic here because it's week 1, and after all, everybody relax. As Aaron Rodgers said, everybody relax. But
can we have one discussion since the guys are right here?
Yeah,
the names are right here. Dan Campbell loses Ben Johnson, loses Aaron Glenn. The Bears didn't look good. The Lions didn't look good. Do we think it would be hilarious if they just were both equally terrible without each other? Because I think the assumption is if the Lions lose Ben Johnson, they're not doing well. It's because of Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
So the assumption is that the Bears would be doing well. But what if they're just both terrible now? Like, what is there to go off of? Do they reunite in 2 years?
Like, what if Ben was the brains and he needed the moxie, and now there's plenty of moxie and not enough brains? Sure. I mean, I've said, pretty publicly, I'm a wait and see kind of guy. And I really want to observe this, what's happening, because I've seen some flags, as I've pointed out. I don't know if I've said it on, the show here yet, but I've seen some flags with the way Ben Johnson's talking about Caleb Williams to the media for the last couple of weeks of preseason that give me maybe a glimpse that he's not all in on this guy. But let me say it another way. I've watched enough football to know this. This is the Bears quarterback moving forward, period. So this organization will fight him. And I know he has control, and I know he's coming in highly regarded. Let's not forget he left Washington high and dry in the 11th hour. Like, he was pretty much going to Washington, then bailed for whatever reason. So I see a scenario, and I hope this is not the case. They're married to Caleb. He's going to be their quarterback. And Ben is also in a situation where he's got to make it work with him, because I think his job depends on him making Caleb Williams into the quarterback that he needs, right? Would you agree, Tim?
I agree completely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely weird territory for them. So let's wait and see on that. All right. I want to start this last game dialogue by saying this, Josh.
Yeah.
Because I went to bed. I hate when I go to bed. Tim, you texted me and I was in bed. Josh, I was like, well, we see where this was going. Good night.
East Coast dads. Shout out.
The Baltimore Ravens became the first team in NFL history, Josh, to score 40 points, rush for 235 yards, and lose a game. They lost 40-41. The Bills dropped 41. What in the world?
Right. I don't know. I think this isn't the first time we've seen John Harbaugh almost lose a game that he had a clear hold of. Obviously, you look back at the Super Bowl against his brother. The Ravens should have coasted into that game. We all know the lights and everything, all of that went into it. That are excuses for that. But ultimately, we keep giving excuses for John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
But he always makes these games, big games against the Bills in recent years, but playoff games especially, where they have a good chance, and there's for some reason they just can't do it. They can't win these games. It was 40-25 with 5 minutes left. I just don't understand. It just always happens to John Harbaugh.
Tim, you agree, Jim Harbaugh? I mean,
Yeah,
John Harbaugh. Sorry.
yeah, I do. I would be concerned a little bit about. He's a good coach, but I'm concerned when it happens over and over and over again. It becomes a pattern. That's where it starts to become predictions. Last week or a few weeks ago about first season, but I think at least one of us probably thinks the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl, right? That becomes a little concerning, right? If you can't win the big game, and if you're choking away, if you can't hold on against, and these are the big dogs. These are the Bills. This will probably be one of the teams you're facing again in the playoffs. And the Bills defense struggled. So it wasn't like the Bills had it all going on. But Josh Allen, my gosh, Josh Allen, phenomenal. I mean, we could talk about Ed Oliver forcing the Derrick Henry fumble, and obviously that was a huge play. But Josh Allen, cool, calm, collected. He's like he's fun to watch. Yeah.
Right. Can I have one stat about John Harbaugh? I just found it here. Sure. John Harbaugh, we can move on to the rest of the game, but John Harbaugh has 17 blown double-digit leads. So that's the most by anyone since 1991. So if there's a guy who blows leads, it's John Harbaugh, verifiably now.
Save that one for Coach. Another record from the game I noticed, Josh Allen recorded his 7th career game with at least 2 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's the most in the NFL. So, Caleb, as you pointed out, Josh Allen putting this team on their back, you would criticize and say not a very well-coached team, but when you have a Josh Allen, as we say, it covers a multitude of sins. All right, well, there's a lot going on this week, some more rivalries, some more big games. I think one of the big games in week 2 is going to happen right off the gate. Tim, the Washington Commanders are visiting the Green Bay Packers Thursday Night Football. Green Bay is favored by 3.5. Who you guys got?
I'm gonna let Tim go first.
Yeah, I know who he's picking.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go Packers only because, and not so. I mean, it was just 3 days ago that both these teams played, so it's not like there's been a huge change. Just based off, as a football fan, and just kind of doing the eye test, the Packers look really good, and the Commanders to me looked good or okay. I didn't think Jaden Daniels had a great game. Go back to our episode 2 weeks ago. I think the Commanders are a good team. I don't think they're a great team. And if the Packers play the way they did on Sunday, the Packers should win that one pretty handily. And the fact that it's a home game, I think the Packers will win it.
Caleb?
Yeah, I'm going to go Packers because I think Eckler's hurt again. They're going to roll out Bill, which is great if you have fantasy, but I think that the Green Bay linebackers are going to lock him down. I think Green Bay's front 7 is just probably the best in the league at this point. Packers defense overall is probably one of the best, probably the best. I don't know. I had to see, but they just locked out the Lions, so I feel pretty good about it. We're all in agreement with Washington. They're a good team. They're not stellar offensively. They only have Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz right now and a bunch of young guys. Everyone else is banged up. Jaden Daniels could put the cape on, but I think the Packers defense is just too deep, too good, and it's going to be a rough game for them.
Josh?
Yeah, Commanders, they're second in rushing right now. They had big plays from Bill. They had big plays from Jaden Daniels on the ground as well. But there's obvious concerns there. They only scored 21 points, I think it was. They had less time of possession than the Giants. I don't know how that's possible. The Giants only putting up 6 points. Defensively, they were able to get to Jaden Daniels several times. There was that play at the end of the half where Abdul Carter basically got there free to him and made him to force throw the ball away. It was a penalty, and they didn't have the chance to get those extra points before the half. But you saw the Giants defense step up and just contain the Commanders. And too, like Caleb was just saying, the front seven, the linebackers, the safety play for the Packers have all been elevated these last 2 years, and they should be considered as one of the better defenses in the league. And so you have at least a similar to better defense going up against Jaden Daniels with a more presentable and efficient offense. I would say the Packers in a similar way to the Giants. If the Giants had an offense, they probably would have beaten the Commanders. I think the Packers have that offense, and they'll do it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, the next game is we move into the early slot. That's our Thursday night game. New York Giants go to visit the Dallas Cowboys. Caleb, we've said a lot about the offense of the New York Giants sputtering and the Dak Prescott having the boys seemingly in the right direction. Your take on this one?
I'm going to go Dallas. I just think we saw with Philly that it was a one-score game most of the game. A lot of errors on Dallas's part. I think Dallas had that game without those 4 mistakes. Giants are a lesser offense, as we just said. I don't think they can match what Dak Prescott's going to do in a bounce-back game. CeeDee Lamb's not going to drop balls like that again. And George Pickens is going to reveal himself to the world this week, I hope. So I just think that the offenses are just way off. I go Dallas.
Josh, Tim?
Sure, yeah. I think Dallas is going to go ahead and win the game. They were the most efficient team on third down, which is a problem for them in previous years. They are a decent run team, at least now, with Javonte Williams. At least has the ability to score against the defense like the Eagles. The Giants, mentioned several times, good defense, but offensively, I just think they can't match to what the Cowboys have. And then I think from what they did on offense on Sunday, the Giants, I don't think they even scored a touchdown. I don't think it was a missed extra point. It was 2 field goals. So they're the first team to not score a touchdown in 3 consecutive seasons in a season opener since the 40s. So for any doubt, this is obviously not a good offense. But I think that the defense won't be so harsh in containing those receivers like they were against the Eagles. So you'll see maybe more explosive plays from the Giants, but obviously altogether you pick the Cowboys in this one.
Tim?
Yep. I agree completely. The Cowboys have the better offense, and obviously better offense, but better offense than Washington. And the Giants just gave up 21 points to Washington. Cowboys have a much more explosive offense. I don't know how in the world the Giants are going to contain both those receivers. Well, all 3 of your receivers, your top receivers. But I think George Pickens has a heck of a game because I think that a lot of attention will be spent on CD, and I think Pickens goes off, and I think Cowboys win it easily.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks visiting Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's at home. They're favored in this game. Is anybody taking Seattle? Is anybody the lone wolf here?
Not based off what we saw.
Nope, not at all.
Pittsburgh's only favored by 3. That's surprising to me, but I agree. Aaron Rodgers and the team, I think they roll through this one. Okay, let me get your take on the Rams visiting the Titans. Again, Rams are favored in this one by 5.5. Anybody the lone wolf with the Titans here? No,
not at all.
These guys are going pretty easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's one. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills visiting the Jets. The Buffalo Bills, at least as of recording of this podcast, are 7-point favorites. Is anybody taking the Jets? Caleb? Yeah, you mentioned
Caleb. You want to take them? Because I'm not far behind you, Caleb, because I think this could be potentially the trap game, right? Buffalo just won this phenomenal emotional game. People are already calling it the game of the year after week 1. And it was a great game, but go rewind 20 minutes into our podcast. We just talked about the Jets 20 minutes ago of how well the Jets played despite losing. Jets at home, I don't know. Go ahead, Caleb, you add on, but I'd be willing to put myself out there saying I think the Jets can win this one.
Okay.
I think the big factor is going to be Sauce Gardner. I think it's going to be the biggest game of his career. They don't have an X receiver. We saw Keon Coleman have over 100 yards this game, broke out. You could argue busted play, but anyway. Sauce Gardner's got the lockdown, whoever their number 1 target is. I think that Justin Fields and Breece Hall and Braylon Allen combined can run the clock out. And we just saw the Bills defense, definitely not Josh Allen. The Bills defense allow what seemed to be a touchdown every time Derrick Henry touched the ball.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just not confident that their linebackers could stop the three-headed monster that the Jets have at running back.
Agreed. I think go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with everything that you guys said. Basically, that I don't see. I don't know. We say this every year. The Bills are super hype, and then every year they find a way to lose. So why not lose?
There hasn't been a perfect season but one time, so they're going to lose somebody.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh. I cut you off. What was your thoughts?
No, I mean, of course, it's a divisional game. The Jets, we still don't entirely know what's up with them, right? They've only had one game, and it was a highly efficient game, a high-scoring game, a lot of good signs for them. And then you step against this defense that just allowed the most amount of explosive plays in the NFL so far, and it was an insane amount of them. I mean, every 10 yards every single time the Ravens touched the football, essentially. They allow the number one rusher in the NFL, the number one receiver in the NFL right now. This defense can't stop anybody. They would be the worst defense in the league points-wise, but obviously they beat the Ravens there. So it was a poor game defensively, and I don't know, and I'm not confident, like Tim said, or like Caleb and Tim said, with the run game and how explosive it is right now. Garrett Wilson against whatever this cornerback room is, it's just it was just poor defensive play, and I don't think that the Bills are always going to be able to match that like they were last game.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, moving along. New England Patriots visit the Miami Dolphins. I don't understand this one. Miami Dolphins are favored by 1.5. This is the biggest upset in the world that everyone should take. I'm going New England all day. Anybody going Dolphins?
No.
No.
I mean, the Dolphins aren't going to be, you would imagine, not as bad as last week. But we also saw the Patriots scored 13 points. We know that the Raiders have Max Crosby and they have a few other names defensively. And they lost to Landon Roberts in that game. But 13 points scored against that defense is a little concerning. I think the Dolphins at least are explosive enough to make up for that being a reasonable line. I mean, two points at home. I can't imagine that they play as bad as last week. So it might be close.
Yeah. No, I agree. Here's one I think we might get a little some difference of opinions in. Jacksonville visiting the Bengals. The Bengals at home are favored 3.5. I'm going Bengals. Anybody going the other way?
I'll go the other way.
Oh, okay. So you're going with the upset in Jacksonville. Why?
I will. Why? Because the Bengals, we know, they've been a slow team to start. There was absolutely no reason they should have won that previous game outside of 2 drops that turned into interceptions and a young kicker missing, I believe, an extra point and a field goal to win the game. They shouldn't have won that game, and they have not been a good team to begin the season. We saw the Jacksonville Jaguars with Travis Etienne, second or third most explosive run game last game. Obviously, only one game to base it off of. And then a match where they're going to be able to beat up against this defense, this secondary on the Bengals. Because Joe Flacco, 5th in passing yards in the NFL right now, non-existent run game from them in the previous game. If Etienne's explosive, if they can match against this defense, I don't see why the Jags don't have a chance. And why they probably shouldn't be favored. They probably should be favored against this Bengals team, how they looked last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh, I'm gonna jump on your side. I think that the defense for the Jaguars, especially their defensive end, Josh Hines-Allen and then Trayvon Walker are both gonna be all over Joe Burrow. We saw last week Myles Garrett literally changed the game for most of the game until those Joe Flacco picks that weren't really his fault. So I think that the Bengals, especially starting slow, I mean, there's no reason Jamar Chase should be doing nothing on your team. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So I blame Joe Burrow for this. I blame the coaching. This shouldn't be this way. So I think Jaguars, they're going to be hot. They just came off a win. Their run game's been figured out. Travis Etienne's back. Brian Thomas, the most explosive player in the league last year. So I'm going Jaguars too.
Wow. Okay.
Anything, Tim?
I mean, I do think it winds up being a shootout, to be honest. I don't know that I trust either of the defenses. This could be one of those 40-38 games, possibly, because I do think the Bengals, I don't know if it's hard to say that week one was a trap game. It's week one for Pete's sake, but
Right.
I can't imagine them just putting up 17 points again this week and barely getting Jamar Chase involved. So I think they know they're playing a good Jaguars team, and for all the reasons that you guys mentioned, I think the Jaguars are going to come in firing. Travis Etienne look like the Travis Etienne from 2 ago, right?
Right.
And so, or 3 years ago, whenever, yeah. And so, I think it winds up being a really good. I think it winds up being a really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more thing for the Bengals. You saw Logan Wilson exited the game. Obviously, they're already starting Demetrius Knight, a rookie at linebacker. Then they have to throw in Barrett Carter, another rookie, to start at linebacker. So you're looking at 2 starting inside linebackers as rookies. And then you have Shamar Stewart, who missed a ton of the offseason, rotating with Joseph Asai. Joseph Asai is a rotational player. He's not a starter. So you have major concerns there with 3 rookies rotating in and out at major positions defensively.
Yeah, all great points to bring up. Let's talk about another game. Let me see what you guys feel about this. San Francisco 49ers are visiting the New Orleans Saints. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, as of right now, isn't Brock Purdy out for this game? Is it confirmed?
Yep. Brock Purdy it's a high question, but George Kittle is certainly out.
And they're favored 4.5.
4 weeks at least.
Mm-hmm.
They're favored 4.5.
It's just, once again, the Saints. What are we looking at?
Yeah. All right. Anybody going with the Saints? Let's put it that way.
No.
Not comfortably.
I don't want to, but I was looking at the defensive numbers for the Saints, and I think they had 4 or 5 sacks in the previous game against the Cardinals. If you're playing against a backup quarterback, all the dependency is going to be on Christian McCaffrey, who led the league in touches for some reason after all these concerns with his injuries. I don't know. It could be not a trap game, but a game where we go in and say, oh yeah, the Niners against arguably the worst team in football, and the Saints walk away with a ton of heavy pressure, and they take away that game against the backups.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. All right, let's keep sliding. We have another great matchup that's going to have an impact on the division. Potentially, Cleveland Browns are visiting the Baltimore Ravens. As of this podcast, Ravens are 11.5-point favorites. Anybody taking the Browns?
No, but I will say it should be high scoring. Joe Flacco revenge game, if you can call it that. I don't think he has any animosity towards his old team, but I don't know. I think it could be close. It's the NFC or AFC North is always close. I feel like it's a coin flip, even with the situation. Man, I don't want to pick the Browns. I probably won't pick the Browns, but I don't think 11.5 is accurate.
No, I don't think the Browns.
No, I don't either.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're moving right along. Let's go to Tim. Another game. I'm going to start with you. Chicago Bears are visiting the Detroit Lions. As of today, the Detroit Lions are 5.5-point favorites at home. Anybody taking the Bears? Starting with you, Tim.
No, absolutely not. Not after what I saw last night. I don't believe in Caleb Williams. I did, I mean, my gosh, how quickly things have changed. I thought, he just looked so, I don't know. It wasn't what I thought.
Yeah.
Last night, I know it was one game, so it's easy to overreact, but I do think the Lions bounce back. The Lions have a lot of really good pieces, and I think, Josh used the word before, they have a great program in place now. This isn't just like a team they patched together in the offseason. So the Lions will be fine. The Bears are just not good enough.
Everybody agree? We're taking the Lions?
Yeah, I will say that, man, I don't know. I don't want to lone wolf it, but I don't think the Bears are that good either just yet.
Yeah.
It's a divisional game. I don't know.
Yeah, I think defensively, we didn't get to see the Lions really do anything in the previous game against the Packers. Like we said, they do very well inside of their house and inside of a dome. For whatever reason, Jared Goff is just not quite the same guy. And I don't think the run game for the Lions would be absolutely zero like it was against the Packers as well. So you get the run game settled, which apparently is all it takes to beat the Bears, according to week 1, is just have more than 0 yards and you'll win the game. But yeah, I think defensively we didn't see plays out of Hutchinson, Branch, Joseph, anybody defensively. So we're going to see those three playmakers do something against this defense or this offense and the Bears, which we saw when you pressure them like the Minnesota Vikings did in that second half. You're going to force Caleb to run out and make plays, and sometimes it's good, but their timing is completely off offensively, and so they're going to be able to take advantage of that just like the Vikings did, because the Vikings, they weren't a stout offense. They weren't really dropping anything crazy on them. It's just they took care of business because the Bears faulted there.
Tim, take us home on this team.
Yeah, one name to keep an eye on as the week goes on is Terry and Arnold, their top cornerback, injured, and so he had a groin injury. So if he's out, that could change things a little bit. But I still think the Lions are a deeper team than the Bears.
Yeah.
Hopefully they tie for the Packers' sake. There you go.
Tie.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks. Yeah.
always this case. All right. The Denver Broncos are visiting the Indianapolis Colts. That said, the Denver Broncos going into Irsay's house are 2.5-point favorites. Anybody taking the Colts? And Caleb, what did you call Danny Dimes? What's his new nickname?
Oh, Indiana Jones.
Are anybody taking Indiana Jones and the boys to win for the upset? Everybody's quiet.
Tim wants it.
I want to. I do.
Yeah,
but
I kind of want
just
to.
played the Dolphins, so
Yeah.
No, I'll go Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos. I don't
efficient.
think that. Yeah, they weren't efficient. They had Evan Ingram leave the game. I know it was the fourth quarter, but I think the Titans' defense is just better than we think they are. I don't think that the Broncos are that bad.
Yeah, they were top 3 last year, I think, in points.
Really?
Yeah.
Or third in points last year.
Okay. Well, nobody's buying, so let's continue on down the road. Carolina Panthers are visiting the Arizona Cardinals. Guys, this is the same as last week. Arizona's favored by 6.5. Now, they're the home team, and Carolina may not be good, but I'm not a big fan of the Arizona Cardinals. Anybody taking the upset, 6.5 points, Carolina? No.
It's
Bryce
tempting.
Young threw for 144 yards yesterday. 15 of 31. No, absolutely not.
I think it is tempting because in the same regard, like you just mentioned, I don't think Kyler threw much more than Bryce Young did.
That's true. You're right.
But
You're right.
I picked the Cardinals last week as one of my 2 locks because they're playing the Saints, of course. But it was too close of a game. It came down to Spencer Rattler almost tying that game. They were in the red zone, I believe, or right next to the red zone. It could have easily been an overtime game, or they went for 2 and won the game. I think the real star from that Cardinals game last week was Will Johnson, the rookie cornerback. You look at what he did defensively. He had an interception called back in the end zone. He had several pass deflections. I think he's leading the league right now. Just a top-level corner immediately obviously fell in the draft because of his injury concerns, but immediate impact and probably the reason that they had such a strong hold in that game. I say a strong hold of 1 score, but the reason that their defense played so well against the Saints.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of love for either of these teams. I in my mind, they're both pretty subpar. Even though, I've been critical of Kyler Murray and Young's getting better, I think, this is just one of those games. I don't think much of the fan base really cares who wins this game unless you live in Carolina or Arizona. So
I just don't think the Cardinals are going to be able to pressure Bryce Young quite like the Jags were able to.
Right.
And I don't think it's a game where the Panthers have to claw back and really throw the entire game. I mean, you're going to see more Chuba Hubbard. You're going to see more of the short game and this offense. I think it's closer than it looks, to be honest.
Okay. I'll take that. All right. Let's talk about a game that we will inevitably be split on because the Philadelphia Eagles are visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. You know how much Vegas and DraftKings love tight spreads when they don't know what to tell you. So they're actually favoring the visiting team Eagles by 1.5. Woo, 1.5. I'll start, guys. I think Jalen Hurts and the boys continue to wound the Chiefs. I believe in coaching. I believe in adjustments. But I think it's going to take another loss for Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes to kind of figure it out. I think they played loose. I think they played uncharacteristically sloppy as the Chiefs, compared to the Chiefs of old. That said, Dallas really took Philadelphia to the edge, pushed them, made them play sharp, and I think they're going to come out firing. And they're a cocky team. They like to come out and prove things. So I'm buying that spread, and I think the Chiefs lose at home. Who wants to give me their opinion on this one?
I picked the Eagles. I think that they're a much better team overall. I mean, look at the offense for the Chiefs. They have Pacheco and Hunt, who are both, one's coming off an injury and one's not great. All their weapons are decimated other than Kelsey and Hollywood, Hollywood's coming off an injury. This is his first year here. Last year, he missed majority of the year. I think he played like 3 or 4 games last year. Just not consistent on offense at all. Their defense is banged up. The Eagles are just a complete team, and they're ready to rock. So, and they're going to get Jalen Carter back this game. So there's that.
Josh?
I do think the Chiefs are going to have a better chance answering against the Eagles than they did the Chargers. The pressure that the Chargers were able to put on Patrick Mahomes no run game for the Chiefs, and Pat Mahomes was still able to answer. Now you look at how the defense was for the Eagles last week against the Cowboys. I think you mentioned no sacks from that Eagles team. It's apparent the losses of Josh Sweat and Milton Williams and obviously Jalen Carter in that specific game. That's a big time miss for them. And so they're not getting pressure as often as they were last year. And I think that the Chiefs, they have a good offensive line despite the penalties. I think they're going to be able to answer back against the Eagles. And the Eagles, we assume that they're going to be able to bounce and back and pass the ball very well. But was it just Jalen Hurts answering to what the Dallas defense was putting in front of them and not throwing the ball down the field or past the 10-yard line at all? Or are they just not as successful this year? We saw with Landon Dickerson when he exited the game, the Cowboys' pressure rate immediately went up. Is Landon Dickerson playing in this game? I think that's the biggest question for them offensively. But I think the Chiefs will be able to score against the Eagles this year.
Yeah,
I think the matchup to watch though is Quinyon Mitchell against Hollywood in this game. I think that's going to be the factor because Hollywood is their only receiver that's good outside of Juju, and then they have Tyquan Thornton in there too. So really skimpy for the Chiefs. I think that the secondary for the Eagles is just way better, in my opinion.
Tim, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it winds up being a much closer game than we think. At least on paper, I think the Eagles are the better team. I mean, if you just put roster next to roster, I think they are the better team. But sometimes, the Chiefs, there's just that X factor with Mahomes and the home field, opening game against their last game was in Brazil. Right? Brazil? Was that where they played?
Yeah,
I think. Or somewhere out of the country, right? Yeah. So their actual first home game in the U.S. I still do take the Eagles. I'm going to go Eagles here just because of the better roster. And more so, kind of to Caleb's point, I don't know who's scoring touchdowns for the Chiefs. I think it's a game, but I think with Xavier Worthy out, it's hard to lose your top receiver. And now Hollywood's not sneaking up on anyone this game. They're planning for him as their top receiver.
Yeah. Josh,
I did. Javonte Williams, right? We're assuming Javonte, who hasn't had a multi-touchdown game in a very long time, if at all, that I remember, had it in his first game on the Dallas Cowboys against the Philadelphia Eagles. Pacheco hasn't been good for 10 or so weeks combined through the last 2 years. I think he's explosive enough, and I think there's an opportunity for them to score with Kareem Hunt in the red zone because the Cowboys had no problem at all doing that last week against the Eagles. So I think that this Eagles defense, while their roster is stout, like Tim said, you compare it to almost anybody and you'd pick the Eagles, of course. I just think their defense is less terrifying this year with the changes that they have, the reliance on their rookies. If there's any game for Pat Mahomes to be able to run around and do his thing, it's this game. And I think obviously he can do it with anybody. We're seeing Josh Allen take down the Ravens with Keon Coleman and Jackson Hawes and Dawson Knox and all these guys. Like Pat Mahomes can very much so do it, I believe.
Yeah.
And you look at the 2 games he's played against the Eagles in his career, it's only been the Super Bowls, and those are 2 extremes. The first Super Bowl, he scored 5 touchdowns, was very efficient, 6 incompletions. Then you had last year, which was nothing. But
yeah, let's move on to the Sunday night game. Currently, the Atlanta Falcons are scheduled to play the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings at home are favored 4.5. So with that said, anybody taking the underdog Atlanta Falcons?
I will.
Tim, all right. Tell me why.
Yeah, I will. I really like what I saw out of Bijan Robinson on Sunday. I really do. He's a beast. And Kyle Pitts kind of had an old Kyle Pitts game. It was almost like a throwback to, it's like these guys remembered who they were. I know Drake London, is he out, or I know he's questionable for the game?
Yeah, not yet.
A little bit, right? Okay, all right. So I think that would be a factor, obviously. But more so, like I said, going back a little while ago in the podcast, I don't know that I love what the Vikings did last night or the other night. They won. Obviously, they won. But just that inconsistency from J.J. McCarthy, like, even if it's in between where, the three touchdowns in the fourth quarter and the 48 yards in the first half, even if it's somewhere in between that, I don't know if that's enough to get it done in the NFL. Honestly, I'm not sure if it is. And I think the Falcons could be sneaky good. Maybe.
Okay. Caleb?
I'm going to actually say Falcons as well. I'm going to lock the Falcons, I think.
Upset lock. Locked in.
Yeah, upset and lock, whatever. We saw last week, the year before, they were a 28.3 pressure rate, which is one of the worst in the league for the season. This week against the Bucks, they had a 40.5% pressure rate, which is a big difference. 15 pressures.
Yeah.
Only one sack, so they don't sack the quarterback. But 15 pressures in a game is absurd. They held Bucky Irving to 45 rushing yards. I don't believe in J.J. McCarthy. I think that pressure rate's going to rattle him. I think that he's going to look worse than he did somehow in prime time. So I'm just not confident in that. And J.J. McCarthy and him having to run the ball. Bucky Irving, we saw, was one of the most dynamic running backs last year. He got bottled up last week, so I'm not confident in that.
Yeah, the Bucks basically were only doing explosive plays. You had Ibuka, he had 2 deep touchdowns. He didn't do anything beyond that. There wasn't a big game for Mike Evans. Caleb read Bucky Irving's stat line. He had a touchdown, but didn't do much beyond that. They contained a lot of the normal football plays outside of the explosive plays, and then you have J.J. McCarthy at the helm against that defense, and what they did, like Caleb said, no sacks, but the pressure rate that they're going to have on a quarterback. We saw what Dio Odeyingbo was doing. We saw what Montez Sweat and Gervin Dexter were doing. I think that, just like they mentioned, you're really betting on J.J. McCarthy to play like he did in the final minute of that game against a team that just held Baker Mayfield to a pretty average stat line.
I mean, 40% pressure rate is absurd.
Yeah.
And J.J. McCarthy under pressure we saw was not good. So I just don't believe in it. I'm picking Falcons.
Yeah, we'll see if Darrisaw's back.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not the biggest fan of the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think they're coached well, to be honest. I don't believe in their talent. Obviously, other than Bijan, they have some players for sure, but overall, I think the Falcons are just a subpar 500 team. That said, I feel in my heart that the J.J. McCarthy hype is just so overrated. Watching him play, watching him throw the football, watching him get batted down, 5-6 times, I don't believe this team is moving forward with J.J. McCarthy in a productive way. I think they missed the boat by trading Sam Darnold. I just don't think this kid is capable of the things that they somehow think he's capable of. So that said, I'm also with you guys. I'm going with the Dirty Birds. I just think that they're going to have better play, and I think as long as JJ is in there, he's a liability to this offense. Sorry, I do. I think it's a mistake. So
I think it might not be a great game offensively for both sides because Tim did mention Drake London. Drake London with his shoulder injury. Right. He had a ton of targets, wasn't very efficient with those targets last week. But then Darnell Mooney was not in that game as well. And then Kyle Pitts, traditionally, we just know he's not uber reliable in either phase of being a tight end. So it's just, in the same respect of the Falcons defense being able to contain J.J. McCarthy, we're going to see probably the same thing against Michael Penix. We're probably going to have a lot more runs, and it's probably going to be an ugly game. But I think J.J. McCarthy at least has a half of football where we saw him do absolutely zero, and then we saw him be their champion. And so what side of that are we going to get with McCarthy? I think there's a lot more uncertainty for that Vikings defense right now.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay.
Offense.
Let's I got you. I was tracking with you. Let's move in. There's 2 Monday night games. As you know, I'm an East Coast dad, so I'm probably not going to make it to one, which I'm going to try. I'm really trying hard. But hey, it is what it is. The first one is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are visiting Houston. Guys, let's put this in perspective. Houston is favored at home by 2.5. I think the Buccaneers win this all day. I think Houston's 9 points is just not enough to write home about. Anybody taking Houston? And if so, tell me why. The Lone Ranger. Nobody? Okay. That's
the Texans.
They didn't score a touchdown.
No, 9
they had
points.
tons of penalties. They didn't score a touchdown. Yeah, no, terrible. Yeah. I'm with you. Tampa Bay all the way.
Yeah.
I honestly expected some type of kickback from that.
Well, you look at they're rolling out Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, Xavier Hutchinson, who hasn't played a ton, but the 3 Iowa State receivers don't have a ton of playing time, and they're expected to be 2, 3, 4 in the receiving core for that team. Cade Stover, I think, has a broken foot. I want to say broken something. He's not going to be playing. So it's Dalton Schultz is the lone man in that tight end room. Jake Andrews, their center, got hurt during this game. The defense really, they did enough against the Rams, but I can't say that's going to be enough against the 2 tackles for the Buccaneers. So I don't think you should have high confidence in the Texans till they prove us otherwise.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you guys 100%. Okay, final matchup of this week is going to be also Monday Night Football. The Chargers are visiting the Raiders. This one is huge again because the Raiders and Chargers are both currently 1-0. LA visiting the Raiders are 3.5-point favorites. Anybody taking the Raiders in this? Crickets.
No, but it's a divisional game. It's a trap game. We just saw Geno Smith throw almost 400 yards last week. Geno Smith looked great. And then we didn't see Genty unleashed yet. I think he only had 30 rushing yards, or under 50 at least. They can balance out that game with the run game. Their defense is great. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to pick Chargers.
I think that's the easy one. I mean, I think it's super easy.
When I'm trying to think of the last time the Raiders even beat the Chargers, other than that, remember that random game where I think Antonio Pierce took over and they scored 65 points, 70 points for no reason?
Yeah.
That was the most random game of my life. But other than that, I don't think they have success against the Chargers.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do think the Raiders are a pesky team, though. I do think they're going to be a team that gives a lot of teams a problem this year, which is why, as good as the Chargers looked against the Chiefs last week, I think they cannot sleep on the Raiders. I actually think this game's a lot closer. We talked about the rosters of the Eagles before.
Sure.
Eagles, Chiefs. I think Chargers have a much better roster. But I think the Raiders will play up for it, but I still think I got to go Chargers here.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason that this is a favorite for the Chargers, at least their first matchup of the year, maybe it's a lot closer, their second matchup, but you're taking advantage of Brock Bowers being injured. You're taking advantage of a second game for Ashton Genty. Their middle linebacker, Landon Roberts, might miss this game. They're starting Caillou Blue-Kelly, who hasn't had a start in his career yet. Eric Stokes, who left from the Packers. That's a secondary you can pick apart right now. And then with no middle linebacker to stop the run, other than Jermaine Pratt, obviously, but missing one half of their linebackers, I think it's going to be an easier game for them to pick apart offensively for the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree. So that gets us through the schedule, guys. Any matchups that you want to talk about, you want to highlight before we wrap this week? Anything sticking out to you that is super important, relevant, or just something that you wanted to add that we might have glazed over?
I think seeing how Baltimore bounces back. Sorry, just very quick. I want to see how Baltimore bounces back this week. That's a devastating emotional loss, and I want to see they have the matchup in their favor here against the Browns. I think if you're a Baltimore fan, you're looking for just a good bounce back, beat down within the division. I want to see them respond that way. And honestly, if they come out flat and Flacco goes off on his ex team, I'd be a little concerned if I'm a Ravens fan.
Flacco revenge.
Yeah, exactly. They never would have thought that Flacco would still be in the league all these years later. But he's
Yeah.
not going away, and neither is Aaron Rodgers.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's easy for people to say, Philadelphia and Kansas City, it's going to be a great game. It's a great matchup. I'm excited to watch it, to be honest. But it's probably the least relevant game, of all the ones, because we really don't learn a lot from this matchup. It's they're running it back, and right now it looks like one's clicking on all cylinders and one's not, and that's a misnomer because the reality is they're both good football teams, and we got a lot of games to play. So, I hope our listeners don't take that one too serious, but that one at least comes to mind. Caleb, you have something for us.
Yeah, I think the New England-Miami game, we joked about it a little bit with Miami being so bad last week. But I'm excited for New England. We saw Hunter Henry first time as being a Patriot playing over 90% of snaps. Went off this week. We saw Tyler Warren against Miami have 75 yards. Hunter Henry is a screaming start for me in fantasy. I know he's a late round pick or on the waiver wire right now in your league. So I would recommend looking into Hunter Henry if you need a tight end, especially with Kittle and Ingram getting banged up. He's a good fill-in spot. But I think for Drake May, this is a great game. If he can go to Miami and win, this is a great one for him. He threw 48 times last week, I think. So he's airing it out a lot in New England. So if he can get this win, that'd be a great confidence builder for that team. And I'm rooting for Drake May. I think he's a good quarterback. And I like what Vrabel's doing. So I think it'll be interesting for that division, especially to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, I have something to add to what Tim mentioned about the Baltimore Ravens. Is they're playing the Cleveland Browns. They lost week 1 to the Buffalo Bills. Not the easiest matchup, but they let the game slide, of course. The Cleveland Browns, we assume, they're going to beat them, and it's going to be whatever. But the Bengals just played very poorly against them. Defensively, the Browns, I think, present a bigger challenge than the Buffalo Bills. But if they don't win this game, somehow, this interdivisional game, their next matchups are all against teams last year that won their division. So you have the Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Houston Texans, LA Rams in that order. So if they don't make it past the Browns in week 2, this is a massive game for them because they have to win some of their next 4 games that are all very tough matchups. So in a close division, this means a ton against the Browns.
Yeah, the great thing about this league, as we all know, is every win does eventually matter as it can come back to bite you in the end. And like you said, Baltimore and Cleveland, they're in the same division. They've got to start aligning this hierarchy, and they can't let Pittsburgh get 2 games up on them. Like that matters in this division so much. So, well said. Well, as always, you can follow us anywhere online at Guys Without Helmets. Excuse me. Also, if you go ahead and press that like, subscribe, and follow button, we appreciate it as always, guys. This is gonna be a good week. I'm looking forward to getting back together next week and talking about it. But hey. Stay tuned. We're off and running. So far, so good. It's been a great week 1. We look forward to week 2, and we'll be here next week to talk about it. See you guys next time.